Okay, now we're going to start with analytical view. We already seen how do we create, but the more options into it. Okay, boss. So when you want to deal with measures, we go with analytical view. It's more like info cube where you formulate the star schema view. It's more like a fact table and joining to the dimensions. Here we would refer dimension as your attribute view. So when you want to model a view where you're trying to project measures and join formulating a star schema view, joining to the dimensions referred from the attribute views, then you go with analytical views. We can create analytical view by using attribute views or without using attribute views also, not mandatory. But only one point to be noted here is, while creating analytical view, we can refer measures, but the measures must be referred from the single table only. That is where we set the property as central entity for the data foundation. In the data foundation properties, whatever the table you set that as central entity will be used as the table where you are referring measures from, and measures can be referred only from single table. And for these measures, you can specify the aggregation function, max, sum, min, all those. Now, if you see, it was an analytical view what we created. I'm able to use measures in this. And when you see measures, you see some aggregation function here. You can say sum or min or max or count. These are the only 4 aggregation functions available. Because whenever you say measure, it is associated with some aggregation function. Yeah. And this is where it is. When you select this data foundation in the properties, you see central entity. This is where you must specify the table name from which the measures have been referred from. So since the central entity can be only one table, you can always refer measures only from single table, not multiple tables, not possible. Yeah. Okay, so when you go about creating an analytical view, similar to attribute view, it does ask you for the name of the analytical view, label, and the package under which you're creating the view. And then the view type would be analytical view, and the copy from would be used when you want to create a copy of an existing view. And there's no subtypes for analytical view. For attribute view, we have subtypes like standard, time, and derived. But for analytical view, there's no subtypes available. It will be only one. Yeah? Now, when you get into analytical view, in the attribute view, in the scenario block, you just see data foundation and semantics. Whereas analytical view, you will see 3 nodes. One is data foundation, star join, and semantics. Yeah. As part of data foundation, you basically list out all the tables on which you would like to build the view and establish a relationship between those tables by using a join. And in case of star join, you basically formulate the star schema view. The fields projected from the data foundation will be referred as a fact, and you're going to join those facts to all the attribute views, which will be referred as your dimensions. Formulate a star join. And then in the semantics, you define more properties to the columns. You define more semantics or more properties to those columns. So in the data foundation, basically you'll have the tables and establish a joint relationship in those tables. The only thing is, can I use the same table multiple times into the data foundation? Yes, by using alias tables, we can use same table multiple times also. Okay. And one important point, we can only use column store tables into the data foundation. We cannot use column views. Only column store database tables only in analytical view. Yeah. And in the star join, the fields what has been referred from the data foundation would be referred as your facts, and you won't join to your attribute views, which will be referred as your dimensions. One point is like say, see now the product ID from the fact is joined to the dimension here. Then it does not select the product ID from the fact. It just refers the product ID only from the attribute. Okay. And in attribute view, you can basically control the column properties in the data foundation. But if it is analytical view, you can control the properties of those columns in star join node. So apart from the you see in the output node, you see something like attribute views here. So these are the ones with attribute views. So these would be the columns what has been projected from the attribute views, what is used in analytical view. And these are the columns what has been projected from the data foundation of your analytical view. Apart from the columns from attributes or columns from attribute views or from the foundation, we can go over creating a new calculate column similar to your in an attribute view. When you create a new calculate column, there is only an attribute. But in analytical view, when you say new calculate column, it could be a measure, or it could be an attribute also. We can also create new counter, or we can create a new restricted measure. We'll deal with this. We can also create input parameters also. And when you
sir, what is this new counter?
Which one new? Yeah, I showed you one
new counter.
We'll see that. But when it's a new counter, say for example, I have amount, and I would like to get the total amount. So what do you say? You'll have a measure which is working with aggregation function sum of, say select sum of amount where so group by customer or group by product. Then that gives me total amount with respect to customer or with respect to product. But let's say my requirement is like this. I would just want to know number of sales orders performed by a customer. Then in that case, I want a key figure which works with aggregation function as count. So I want like this, select count of sales order number from this table where group by customer or product. So for each customer, you will get to see number of sales orders. So whenever you want to have a measure with aggregation function as count distinct, then you will go with new counter. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the semantics, you're going to have 4 tabs here. You're going to have columns, properties, hierarchies, and parameters or variables. As part of this tab columns, you get to see 2 blocks. One is local and shared. As part of local, you get to see the columns what is projected from the data foundation of your analytical view. As part of shared, you get to see the list of the columns what has been projected from the attribute views which is being used in the analytical views. So you get to see field, and it also tells you this field has been coming from which attribute view also. See. So whenever in the shared, you get to see the fields what has been projected from the attribute views what is used in analytical view. And here you get to see the columns from your data foundation of analytical views. And basically we'll see this, we can control the key attribute or hide or label column. And this is important. For measures, this is where you can control the aggregation function, whether it has to work with sum or count or min or max. Yeah. Then similar to your attribute view, even this analytical view would have some set of properties available, like say in the properties you'll see, we'll get into that. And before we get into this property, let me just finish up this tab, hierarchies. Can we create hierarchies in analytical view boss? No. When you basically use the attribute view into analytical view, and if this attribute view has any hierarchies, those hierarchies come into analytical view. But as it is, we cannot create any hierarchies in analytical views. Only the hierarchies what is been deployed in attribute view, and when these attribute views are being leveraged in analytical view, hierarchies come in analytical view. But as it is, you cannot create hierarchies in analytical views. Then there's a tab called parameters and variables. We'll deal that as a separate topic, very, very important. So these are like something, not exactly, but something like your variables in your BEX query. or something like your prompt in BO. When you basically, let's say you want to parameterize your view, then we use these parameters, or when you want to filter, make the filter dynamic or something, then we go with parameters or variable. The basic purpose of this is you want to make the definition of the view dynamic, or you want to parameterize the view. Based on the parameter what you pass in, I want the definition of the view to be executed. Then we go with these parameters. And when you want to make a filtering dynamic, then you go with variables. It's more like a prompt or a variable in your DEX or prompt in BO. Yeah? Now let's get with the variables here. Sorry, properties. You see the initial property, you see straightforward. This is the name of your analytical view. This is the path of the package where the view has been defined, and this is your description of the view. And then look at this here. This is what makes a difference between attribute view and analytical view. For attribute view, the data category was Q. Sorry. For attribute view, the data category was dimension. That's what it was not allowing you to use measures. And since the data category for analytical view is Q, we are able to use measures into it. This is a property which allows you to start using measures into this analytical view. Yeah. And default client, this is same as your attribute view. Remember, yesterday we have seen a session client and a cross client. When you say session client and cross client, suppose if you have some client independent tables, what is been replicated from SAP, Business Suite or whatever it is, you'll have a field called mandate. So if you want allow the user to see data for all the clients, then you would set this property as cross client. If you want allow him to see only for the client what is being logged in with, then you will set it as session client. Okay. Then there is something called default schema. You will not have this for attribute view, but for analytical view you will have this. The importance of this would be about currency conversions. Let's say, if you remember, when I'm doing currency conversion with SQL, I was specifying a schema name which contains those tables like T C, all those, right? Similar way, when you want to do currency conversion in your views, in the default schema, you'll have to specify the schema name in which all your currency relevant tables have been available. So before I go about doing the currency conversions, I'll have to specify the default schema, which is nothing but the name of the schema which holds all your currency relevant or the unit conversion relevant tables into that schema. Yeah. Because I told you, whenever you're trying to do currency conversion or unit conversion, your HANA engine will expect the tables with the naming as TCAR, C, X, F, all those. And if you replicate it from SAP, you'll have the tables with the same naming. If you're replicating from a different source, you may not have the tables with the same name. So what you do is you basically replicate those tables and create a synonyms for those tables with the names what my system would expect. And default schema would be the name of the schema which has to be specified to have your currency conversion done. So this will be the name of the schema which will have all your currency conversion and unit conversion relevant tables have been made available. Yeah. And next one would be your privileges. Same way you'll have SQL privileges, analytical privileges. If you want to apply privileges on this view, then you use this property. Means you want to control the authorizations or you want to control the row level security on this view content, then you go with apply privileges on this. If you want to control row level security directly on the view definition, then you'll go with analytical privileges. If you want to control the authorizations based on the column view of this analytical view, OLAP catalog column view, then you will say SQL privileges. Then next, this property becomes important. We can start using this. Now there's an option called enable history. If you're using a table which are enabled with session type as history, then you will enable this property as enable history. And once you enable the history session, then you are supposed to see the data in the table based on the timestamp, as of UTC timestamp. So when you want to pass on the timestamp dynamically, then here I can say, look at this, in history input parameter. Here I can specify the input parameter. At the runtime of the query, user will specify the timestamp, and based on the timestamp what is specified, you get to see the data here. So when you say enable history here, you start specifying the parameter name or variable name, which will hold the timestamp in it. So So at the runtime of the view, when you run the view, you will get a selection screen where you have to specify the date and time, and based on the date and time, what is specified, the content of the view will be different for you. That's how you won't handle the time traveling queries dynamically in the view. Please mute bus others. Can you please mute yourself? Okay. Okay. That's we'll see. Once you see practically, you'll get to get this understanding. Then there's a property called cache invalidation period. Again, you'll have hourly or daily. So when do you want the see? Every time you run a query on this view, it tries to fill the data of the view into the cache. After hourly or daily, you want the cache data to be invalidated, we can use this option. And generate concurrent attributes is same property in your attribute view. Whenever you have the join performed on two columns, instead of join to be executed on two columns, you would like to go with what? You would like to have a concatenated column in the table in the backend, and I want the join to be performed on the concatenated attribute, not on the two columns. And this will improve the join performance, but it affects your database performance because you are occupying more space. Then there's an option called allow relational optimization. To understand this property, let me just show you once. Let me just show you one option here. Try to understand this. Let me take the simple one. Okay. Let me create an analytical view. Say new ZAN. But please mute yourself, please. If I mute, you will not be able to ask any questions. Please, so please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Everyone. If I mute, you will not. Lona, mute చేసుకున్నా నేను చేస్తే నువ్వు క్వశ్చన్లు అడగలేవు అర్థం కదా ZAN and then relational optimization, that's a property, and I want to create a copy from the one which is already there. Models, then I'll take this one, say okay. Say I don't have any property being selected, just activate this relational opt. Okay, now let's see. Now when I activate this view, does it create column views in sysbig schema? Yes. So not tables. Now go to column views, filter ZAN underscore relational underscore opt. If I go with this, now you see the column views generated. You will see one overlap catalog column view, yeah, and others normal column views, right? Now let me do some change in the view, see what does that do. Let me build some complex calculation, something like say new counter, number of orders, let's see count with respect to sales order number, count with respect to sales order ID with count distinct of sales order ID. Then I would like to use that counter into some calculation again, something like this. I just want to say average something. I'll say decimal. Here, when I say calculate column, it could be a measure or attributes. I'm going with here. I can choose whether I want attribute or measure. But in attribute view, it's by default an attribute. So I'll say measure something like say gross amount and something divided by that aggregation function, number of orders. Okay, I want to project them. Okay. So in order to achieve my logic, what system does is in order to achieve my logic of the view, system has to undergo some sub-select statements. When I say sub-select, you should know a select within a select statement. First it will have a select statement to get the count, then the count will be used into the calculation. So there are some subselects formed into the view to get this result achieved. In that case, what it does is to overcome with the problem of this, not the problem, to overcome with the performance problem of the subselects. What it does, system creates one column view at the top of this. Now let me just activate. Now when I activate, now let's see this column views now. Let's select this and say refresh. Now you see, apart from this overlap catalog column view, it creates one column with this calculator symbol. It creates a calculation column view on top of it. It is doing this because it has to solve the problem of subselects internally. It does this. In these kind of scenarios, you will say allow relational optimization. You enable this checkbox, allow relational optimization to remove the subselects. When you do that, it improves your query performances. So whenever we have a scenario that the query calculations are a bit complex and trying to do some self subselects into it, and systems, whenever you activate those kind of views, system tries to generate a calculation column view on top of overlap catalog column view. In those cases, you will select this checkbox, allow relational optimization to improve the performance of the view. Normally, when you activate an analytical view, it has to create overlap catalog column view. Whenever it includes some complex calculations and subselects to be included into it, apart from the overlap catalog column view, on top of this overlap catalog column view, system would generate a runtime object as calculation catalog column view. For those kind of scenarios, you will go about generating, enable the checkbox, allow relational optimization to improve the performance of the view. Look at this option.
Sir, if we do not go for this, won't it be activated?
What is it?
I mean, if we do not check this checkbox,
Yeah. No,
is it not going to work?
No, whether you select the checkbox or not, it creates that calculation column view. But I want the reporting to you be using that calculation column view rather than overlap catalog column view. Then I'll enable the checkbox.
Okay. And sir, one more thing, just coming to this analytical
topic. Let me finish. You can. Yeah.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
So to getting in detail, now look at this. You can enable this relational optimization for your analytical view, such as optimize stacked SQL, for example. Say you have a requirement like this. You've built in a calculated columns which is formulating a query like this. Say select A, sum of X from select star from AV group by. So there's a like subselects forming within the select A. Instead of forming like this, why don't we convert it like this? Say to select A sum of X from AV group by AV. So when you want to convert, eliminate the subselects and format one single select statement like this, we can do that by setting the property allow relational optimization. Look at this, setting this property would be effective only for analytical views having complex calculations such that deployment of analytical view generates a catalog calculation view on top of generated catalog overlap view. Did you understand this sentence? Just read twice or thrice. Setting this property would be effective only for those views which has got complex calculations such that deployment of analytical view is generating a calculation column view on top of overlap catalog column views. So when it is generating the calculation catalog column calculation views on top of this overlap catalog column views, we will enable this checkbox to make sure it does remove those subselects and formulate one single selection and improve your performance of the view. And for more details, you can refer to this note 1825549. So now we should understand this property was here. Okay, and I think we are okay with this properties. I'll show those history enabled all those. Yeah. Then hierarchies. As it is, we cannot create any hierarchies in analytical view, but when you use an attribute view, which contains hierarchies, and those hierarchies are projected here in analytical views. Then next we'll have a tab called parameters or variables. For now, just understand we use them to make the view definition dynamic. By using these parameters or variables, we can provide some dynamic filtering and all those stuff can be done. Yeah. Now let's see about all this. Now, points to be noted. When we activate analytical view, does it create column views in sysbig schema? Now we know that. Either you create analytical view straight away without using attribute views, or by using attribute views, it does create column views in sysbig schema. The main column view would be OLAP catalog column views. And if it contains complex calculations, on top of that OLAP catalog column view, it does generate calculation column view on top of it. Yeah. In data foundation, can we include multiple tables? Can we use multiple fact tables? Yes, but measures can only be referred from single table only, which is referred as the central table for the data foundation. Hierarchies cannot be created in analytical view, but can we use hierarchies built in attribute views? Yes. In star join, we can create in star join, can we create a calculate columns, which could be attribute or measure, and we can also create a restricted measures also. We'll see that. Now I'll have to show that option now. In star join, like similar to your attribute view where you're being creating some new calculate columns. Say for example, I've got gross amount. See, in case of attribute view, when you say create calculate column, it could only allow you to create an attribute, not say for example, if I get to that, get to an attribute view. In the data foundation, you have that option. When you say create calculate column, you never have an option which says attribute or measure. By default, it is attribute. But when I say create calculate column in analytical view within the star join, you have an option to say whether it has to be an attribute or measure. So in analytical view, you can create a new calculate measure or new calculate attribute, anything you want. Same way you'll have functions, you'll have elements, and then you'll have operators, and then define your logic what you want. Say something like, say I would like to go with average selling price something, and I would say this is your decimal and something 10 of 2. I want this to be a measure, and I would say gross amount, something like divided by quantity. That gives me average selling price. And here I can specify, see, in the aggregation functions, it specifies as formula, which is nothing but as per the formula, so activate. Then when try to see the content, it shows you 33 divided by something around 2 should give you something like 16 or something. Like this, you can basically create a new calculate measure or new calculate attribute also, and by using this calculate columns also. Okay. Now, apart from those creating calculate, now the important point here is when you're creating calculate columns, there's one option very important. There's something called calculate before aggregation. Very important. Yeah. Mm, so I think there is some table to show that. We can take this example, target sales. Okay. See, I've got now price and quantity. Basically, I would like to have a view which can give me price, quantity, and amount. Okay. Let's see this. Let me create a view. This is the best example to understand calculate before aggregation. ZAV. Say I want order ID, then order date, customer name, first name, price, and quantity. And I would like to go with calculate column. Say price into, this is not a measure, this is an attribute. Activate this. Now let's try to see the data. Let me say, look at this. In this table, each record is one order, right? 1 to 10. Yeah? Let's say order ID, and then let's say amount. Now, first order it says 52. Let's see what is correct or not. 10 into 5, so it says 50 around. 11 plus 6, 66, and 2, 10, and something 5 is 5. So it should be 50 here, 60, something around 1000, something around 2400, something around 3000 some change. Eh? So 52, 60,000, 2000, 3000 some changes. I get that. Let's say I'm not, look at these values, okay, and let me just take these values and copy this. So I get these values, and when I add this up, it is 14,705 is the value. Yeah. Now what I'll do? Let me for all the records, if you see, sorry, for all the records, if you see, the last name of a customer is still same, or you can go with the dates. There are two records with same date here: Jan 1st, March, and you see two dates with same name. Now let me drill on an order date. Now look at this order date. First I get something like Jan 1st, right? Let's look at this. For Jan 1st, it is up. There's one record with Jan 1st, there's one record with Jan 1st. Tell me what is the amount. 10 into 5 is 100, 50. And again, for this record of Jan, 10 into 5 is 50. So 50 plus 50 should be 100 some change. Yeah? But look at this, how much does it show here? For Jan 1st, it is showing me 210. It is showing me 210, which is actually wrong, because if you see this, what it is trying to do is, first it is aggregating both this price, 10 plus 10 it is becoming 20, and then it is aggregating this quantity 5 plus 5 as 10, and then it is multiplying 10 and 20 and 10 as, and resulting as 210. You getting this? First it is actually aggregating the price and quantity based on the date. It's saying sum of price, sum of quantity grouped by order date. Then after those price and quantity are aggregated, it is multiplying that value. So, but I get a different, so for a key figures like price, which is supposed to be specific to a product or specific to each transaction, we are not supposed to aggregate and then multiply. First, we have to multiply the price and quantities, then aggregate the result. Yeah. You getting this problem? So what I'll do, I will get to this view and control this property. Edit. I'll say calculate before aggregation. Okay, that will be a sum. Yeah? So first it has to calculate before aggregating the results. Now, if I go in, if I try go with order date and the amount, you'll get it as 100. Look at this, 105. So first what it is doing, it is first multiplying the price and quantity for each of the records, And after you get the amount result, then that is aggregated. So it says 10 into 5 as 50. Then one more transaction of 10 into 5 as 50. Then it aggregates those 50 plus 50 and gives you 105. You getting this checkbox calculate before aggregation bus? Very, 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 very important bus. Okay.
Sir, is there a time in which we would not want to press that checkbox?
Is there a time when you want? Yeah.
No time in which we should not check that box. In other words, should we always use that checkbox?
No, 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 no. Depending on the requirement. For example, I have something like this: gross amount and quantity. Yeah. So I have something like this. Let me take is 100 and then 200, then it is 300. Yeah. And then here it is my quantity is 2 and say 1, 1, 2 and 3. Now if you look at this case, now I just want to calculate average selling price, which says gross amount divided by quantity. So 100 by 1 would be 100. 200 divided by 2 is what? Again 100. And 300 divided by 3 is again 100. So the total, look at the average selling price. Now it is going to be, if you aggregate, normally you are not supposed, but if you aggregate also, it's going to be 300. Okay. Let's say before you performing this division, you aggregate this as it will become what? 600. Yeah. And if you will take this out, it becomes 6. 600 divided by 6 is still going to give you 100. Yeah. So in this kind of scenario, you can aggregate and then perform calculation. No issue. That will actually improve performance. When you are allowing the system to aggregate and then perform the calculation, that will improve the performance of your view, because the calculations which it has to perform, the number of records on which the calculation has to be done will be less after aggregating things. But in some cases where if you look at the key figure price is not specific to the transaction, it is specific to a product or specific to certain columns of an, like say, my table has got multiple columns, like say C1, C2, C3, C4 and C5 and something like that. And let's say I have some key figures. Suppose if this key figure is specific to all these columns, then I can say aggregate and then do calculation. But if the key figure is being specific to any certain columns of this table, then we have to perform calculation, then aggregate. You getting me? For example, if you look at the price, I have, let's say, order ID, and then I've got some product. We are not worried about the order, but this price is specific to product alone. But if you take gross amount is not specific to product. Amount is specific to order ID, product and all this. It is specific to all the columns. You getting this?
Yes, sir. I got it. Thank you.
Sir, is it safe to assume like for all
A bit louder, please, louder.
Sir, is it okay to assume for all non-cumulative values we have to check the check?
That's it. That's it. Any measure, see, if you have some key figure which you don't want that to be working with some function, then I would go with selecting calculate before aggregation. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Non-cumulative means when you don't want that to be worked out with some aggregation function as sum, then I'll say calculate before aggregation, then the resulted one should be aggregate after that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's about calculate columns and nothing much. And you'll also have something called counters. Order ID, and I know there are some 10 orders. Okay. If you see this data here, I have 10 orders in total. And for each order, if I see some data, in total there are 10 orders, but if I sort them based on the date, say for this date there are 2 orders, again for this date there are 2 orders, for this date there are 2 orders, for this date there are 2 orders. If I go with first name, if I ask you how many orders are performed by this customer, it will be 10. But if I say date wise, for this date how many orders, it will be 2. Yeah. So basically I would like to get number of orders performed. Okay. Then, so when I say number of orders, I would like to have a field which works with aggregation function as not sum, count, distinct. Okay, I'll say new counter, number of orders. Yeah. Then I'll say drop down this and I'll select that. So I would like to have the measure working with exception aggregation. In BW we have this property. I want this to work with count distinct of order IDs first. And let's see now what did it say, and then activate. Now when I go with this, now when I say for a customer name, if I say number of orders, it will tell you as 10. Yeah. If I say for a particular order date, then it gives you for each of the dates says 2, 2, 2, 2. If I go with the last name, then it gives me 10. You getting this? So when you want to measure to be working with aggregation functions count distinct, then you will go with the you go with counters. When you want count of things, yeah, and that to count should be distinct. If it is normal count, I can just take 1, 1, 1. Say for example, distinct ante okay. You should know the difference. If you just take normal count, say for example, I take this. Let's see the details of one. Let me take it as company name and then order ID, then some amount. Yeah, you see this getting aggregated, right? See, for this customer, there are so many orders. There are 24 orders for Avantel. Okay. Now, okay. Now, good. Now, what I'll do, I'll go here. I'll try to just build some calculate column as 1, just like counter. Okay. I'll say it's a measure. It's an. I can go with integer where I just say 1 here. For all the records, it's going to be 1. And let's try to see the data now. I'll say company name, order ID, then I'll say counter. Then if you see, what does this show me? It shows me 111 for every record, right? Now if I remove the sales order ID, sorry, I won't get this as some rate. Why is this giving 1? It has to aggregate it has to get 1 for every row, then First mute please. So it is actually giving, see, it is giving me 144 as the total number of rows for this customer. But actually what I wanted, if you go with order ID, see, for Avental there is an order as 5, but it's showing me count as 7 because there are 7 items in it. Look at this. For 5 the order 5, what 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So it's like what? For each, because my view is an item level data. So for each item, it is counting as 111 and giving me 7. So when I take this out, it gives me 7. For this, each order, it has to count me 1, right? So that is what I so what I want is if so even though there are duplicate order IDs here, see for all the 7 records the order IDs is same, order ID is same. So it is actually taking a 7 count, but I want it as for all the same order ID it has to count distinct. Okay, it has to just count as one bus. So in that case, I'll say it's a new counter, number of orders. I just want to say count distinct what order IDs. Even though there are duplicate order IDs, it just has to count only once. Yeah. So even though there are multiple items of this order, it just has to count only once. Let's get this counter and orders and compare the difference. Now it says number of orders for Aventil is 24, but whereas this counter is giving me 144. Do you understand this difference here? This is working with aggregation function as sum. It is just summing up all those ones. But here it is just summing up those ones with respect to order number one. This is more like non-cumulative key figure ones. I'm not accumulating all the ones. I just want that to work with, apart from some aggregation function, I want this to work with count distinct, count of those numbers. You getting this? Yeah. So that's the counter bus. Okay. Then we have an option called restricted columns here. Yeah. So for this, I want to show you one simple one so that you will know the time based. See, I have got time based attribute view. So I want to start using this so you'll understand things. I've got time based attribute view where each record is one day of the view. Yeah. I would like to use this to join to my sales. Yeah. I take copy. Now you take paste of it and share.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, regarding earlier example regarding counter,
Yeah.
if we select, I mean, if you do a counter on the top of item, we'll get the same count, right?
No.
144.
Yeah. Because it'll start counting with respect to each item, right? Then you have to
Item wise.
no. Sorry. If you do count with respect to each item, if you look at the data, this is how it is. You got not this one. If you look at this data, it is how this is how it is. For a company name, for an order, you see an items, yeah. But the item numbers are same. Here you got 10, here also you got 10. Yeah, 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30. Look at this, yes.
Okay.
So now
Irrespective of sales order ID, it will go for item wise.
exactly.
Whatever the field we select.
Exactly.
So if we select, can we select two columns, sir?
Two things. Yeah, good. And that is what logic is. Then you should go here and say count with respect to each item of an order ID. So count distinct for the combination of this both.
Okay, then we'll get 144.
Then you'll get 140. For
So
each,
is this the right process?
no, it depending on what you want. Do you want to get what you want? That's how it goes, right? You want to see number of orders, you want to see number of items. What do you want to see? Now you'll get 140. For this, yeah. Depending on your client requirement.
So based on business scenario.
Exactly. That's all, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we are looking at this time one. I just want a simple thing. I already have analytical view formulated with all the columns coming out, and I have this column view which is giving me the change date of the order. So based on the change date, I would like to derive all other time attributes, year, month, all this. So I'll use this time attribute view. I'll use this time based attribute view and join my, I just want to see the change date. Change date is in SQL format or this is the one I think. Let's see the data so that we can understand whether the date is in which format, SQL format. Okay. So then what I'll do, if it is in SQL format, I'll join this change date to date SQL. Suppose if your date is in SAP format, I'll join it to the date SAP. Now, as soon as I join this, I can start getting the year, quarter, week, all the stuff. Done. Activate.
So the dates are of different formats.
Yeah, because
Date SQL and SAP.
yeah, SAP will not have dot or slash, it will have YYYMMDD. SQL would have different form. If you try to see this data, you see, SQL would be like this. Jan first so and so. Your SAP date will be YYYMMDD. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So now when I try to see the view content here, let's say I would like to analyze it on year wise and say some gross amount, and let's me go with each company. Okay, so I get to see only 2012 and everything is in 2012 only. Okay, let us assume I have it 2012 and something like 2013 also. This can I think delivery date is slightly different dates. I just want to have date for different years. Okay, let's assume there are multiple years. So let's say for customer Avantel, I have got data for 2012 and 2013. Okay. Now I have this key figures as gross amount and that stuff, right? Now let's say my user asked me to project two key figures. One is saying gross amount for 2012, gross amount for 2013 separately. So then what I want, I would like to have some sub-select statements. Like for example, I would like to say right click new, uh, gross amount for 2012. Yeah. I want to see gross amount where my year is equal to 2012. This is one. I can say include or exclude, or I can add multiple columns also. One more. Yeah. Say okay. Let's say I say one more. I want it as gross amount for 2013. Let's just say I would like this, say select gross amount where my year is equal to 2013. So it's more like restricted key figure in BW, or for the non-SAP people, it is like more like a sub-select statement. So I get in and I'll have two different columns now. I'll say company name, and then we'll have gross amount for 2012, gross amount for 2013. Then get, I know for 2013 we never had any value, so it is just giving you 0, null. Yeah. So did you understand this restricted column? I think BW people should be easily picking up. This is just like RKF. So when you want to have a measure restricted based on an attribute value or set of attribute values, you can go with this restricted key figure. Yeah. One important, you can basically use multiple. You can say add and one more column, say month or something, where month is equal to, not equal to, greater than, is null, not null. So multiple list of values you can choose. Yeah. Or sometimes if you want, you can build an expression, but this is not a something very really complex you can build in. You can also maintain an expression, you can write a formula on your own what you want to build in here. But I'll come to that point later, but just make a note. In analytical view, restricted column cannot be made dynamic. Say for example, instead of fixing for 2012 or 2013, I want to make it dynamic, say based on the input of the customer, I would like to change. No. If you want to make your restricted column dynamic, it can be done only in calculation view, not in analytical view. We'll come to that later. So do you understand about calculation columns and restricted columns? Yeah.
Can we create restricted columns based on the calculated column?
Yes. You can use this one into there. Next, for example, I have restricted column, right? I can use restricted column into calculated column. Yeah. See, I have restricted columns. I'm able to use them into calculation, right? But not the other way. For example, if you put my restricted columns. See, I can use restricted column into calculated column, but not calculated column into restricted column. No. Okay. Variables and input parameters. See, I'll just touch that this option. Then I want to remove this. I'll let this be. So we're going to deal with input parameters and variables. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction, but we'll get in details because that's a very big topic and very, very important topic. For today, you'll try to see, you'll feel as if both are same, but they're different. I'll show you now. Say I have a requirement like this. I just want to allow my customer to choose. When I see the data, he's trying to see data for all, right? Data preview is not possible because you not activated it. So when I try to see the data, something is wrong. Order date.
You did not drag the output columns, I guess.
No. So this is not giving data. We remember for yesterday when I showed you, I changed the join. Okay, boss. See, you're seeing data for lots of countries, right? You got Germany, US, all those stuff. But I want to provide the user, I want to provide the flexibility to the user to choose what he wants to see, not all. Yeah? So what I'll do, simple. First thing I will show you with the variable. Anyway, you can select. You can just see, select this country column, and you see an option here. What is this? Create, create variable and apply filter. This is what you can do. So it takes variable name. If you want, you can change. You can change the label. All this. Don't worry on anything else. Just say OK. That's it. Activate. See now you see the variable been activated for the filtering. Now when you try to run the query, it'll pop up a variable country. Say what you want. I can just say D. Then say OK. Then it'll show you data only for DE. So you get to see data only for D. I can make that filtering. That is one option. One way of doing it with variables. Yeah. Or I can also create a variable this way. So I'll just use
Sir, these variables are reflect.
These variables?
These variables are available in BOBF.
Yeah.
BO.
Yeah. There are two things. I'll show you.
Straight away user.
But, let me continue. See, when you create universe with HANA business layer, you will be able to use them. If you create universe on the tables or column views, you will not be able to use them. Yeah. Hello?
So please repeat.
See, in IDT, there's two things. When it comes to HANA, here, when you try to create, see, there's something like new HANA business layer. When you say new HANA business layer, then you basically trying to touch that view directly. You're trying to build universe directly on that view. Say select something. If you're creating directly on the view, what was that? My 9 cubics. Still
Input variable 001. IP variable. The last button.
if I select this one, see, when you the business layer, but if you go to the parameters here, not here, I should see the data foundation. If you go to the data foundation, when you select this, you will see these variables coming. See, where underscore country. Okay. And if I save this and then try to run some dummy query, and if I refresh, so you get a variable screen. This variable screen is from your HANA bus. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if I create universe in another way, if I say create
Uh-huh.
normal business layer, if I just create normal business layer, sorry, I need to create data foundation again. If you go to this data foundation, this is a normal column view. Suppose if I use some column view from this big schema, then you will not get those. Yeah. If I'm trying to build
No,
a
here many parameters or
will not come, you will not get that. For example, if I go to sysbig and if I try to choose, so when I expand that sysbig, it will show me all the column views now. So when I use this column view to build my universe, then you will not get those parameters or variables.
usually for PO we create universe, right, sir? Then these variables will not be in use.
No, that's what I'm
Is
saying.
of no use, right?
When you're creating universe, if you're creating universe by using new business layer and creating it on the view directly, then the prompts and variables can be used. But if you're creating universe on the column view deployed from the analytical view in sysbig schema, then you can't use them.
Acha. So again on the top of this we need to do HANA which you shown the very last time.
For example, look at this.
On the top of that again we
See, 9
universe.
models, hierarchy, IP, where. Okay. What is this? This is not the view. This is only a column view. Now, when I use this column view, when I select this, you not
Uh-huh.
you see.
Yeah, we got this.
But this will not play. When you create a universe on top, this will not play.
Okay.
But when I'm creating a new HANA business layer like this, right click, say new HANA business layer, then those variables or parameters will come as prompts in BO for you.
Acha, so on the top of these views, we need to create a HANA business layer.
Exactly, exactly.
So in this business layer on top of this, we need to create universe.
Exactly, exactly.
Again, we need to create this business layer to view these variables.
Yeah, yeah. Now, but in the next roadmap, what SAP is saying, you will be able to create web reports straight away on the views without universe.
Oh, that is great then.
You'll have that. Yeah. In the next roadmap, they have that.
So earlier we were
So
actually
what is this
creating
creation
some
of universe?
What is the?
This creation of universe, how do we create it?
No, this is just see. Universe is only a component of BO reporting tool. So when you want to create some reports on top of the view, you have to create a universe which will have the connection details from BO to HANA
It's the
view. It's like interface.
interface between.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is not our topic. Don't worry. Now, what anything else? Okay. Now let me show.
yeah earlier we were creating some column views based on procedure, right?
Earlier we were creating some.
Column views based on procedure.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, in that case we are able to use these prompts.
No, no, no. In that case, we were using derived table. Remember, input parameter for derived table.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Don't get confused. Mere ecology sound, but don't think too much. Okay, just relax. I'll take you to that. Okay. Okay. So that was variable. Same thing we can also achieve with. I can also create variable here also. Look at this. If I say drop down here, say new variable. Only thing I just have to give all my names and the stuff. I want this variable to be created on which column. Say again country, and that is it. Okay. Activate. Same thing I can achieve here. Again, you'll get a variable screen. We'll show you and say DE, and then I say okay. Then you get to see only for DE country only. Yeah. Same thing I'll try to achieve with input parameters. I can't achieve with country now for you. I can only show you some. Let's go with okay. I want to give some filtering option on partner IDs. Drop down. I'll say what. Now this time with input parameter. Create input parameter. IP partner. Something direct. So I want to go with column, some name, and the column is partner ID. Say okay. After the parameters create, I'll use this in the filter option. Apply filter equal to, instead of saying fixed value, I'll say what? Input parameter. Some partner ID just select. I think there might be no data for that partner, or you can select some other partner and see. Okay, boss. Like this, I can also use input parameter or variables, boss. But there's a lot concept into this. This is just the basic, so we'll get in more detail in tomorrow's class on input parameters. And any interview mandatory question: what is the difference between parameter and variable, and all those options within that. Very, very important. Okay. So I'll stop it here for today, and if something else, if you have some doubts, you can raise it here.
Sir, please can you explain calculated aggregation before 1 second, sir? I'm a little bit confused regarding that option.
Okay. So I have it like this. Order ID, say price, quantity. So now price is 10 here, 20, 30. Let's say quantity is 2, 3, and 5. It is quantity. Actually, you want to calculate amount. Okay. Now, can you tell me what is? And let's say you have customer. For all the three records, customer is same. C1, C1, C1. So now amount is 20 here, 60, 150. Now what is the total here? 210, and so total will be 230. So if you ask me for customer C1, what is the total amount? C1, and I'll give it as 230. Okay. Now let's
Yes,
say
sir.
in the reporting you're drilling down on customer and this. Okay. Now when you say sum of price, sum of quantity, drill down group by customer at you'll get it as C1. It'll aggregate 10, 20, 30. It'll add up all this price and makes it a 60. It adds up all this quantity and makes it as a 10, and gives, and then if it multiplies, then it gives you 600. Is it correct or wrong? For C1, actually
Yes.
what you collected was 230, not 600, right? So what is happening here?
Yeah.
First it is aggregate, it is adding up all the prices with respect to customer, then it is adding up all the quantities with respect to customer, then multiplying
Okay.
it.
Okay.
But actually what I want this first, it has to multiply all this first with, before aggregating the records, it has to perform this calculation like 20, 60, 150, then aggregate this value.
Then I agree.
Give me as what? 230. That is
Okay.
calculated before
Okay.
aggregation or after aggregation.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Sir, BW perspective, we really use variables, sir,
Sound, yeah.
because those are
I'm not able to hear you. Bit wide, louder.
BW perspective. These variables, calculated key figures and restricted key figures, already exist in BW queries, right? So, do you really use this variable, sir, in BW perspective?
See, BW is a different application. HANA is a different application. So what is your question now? Yeah.
Suppose if the queries are already exist, if migration is happening, sir.
Hmm.
The queries are also migrated to HANA. So on queries, these variables and calculated keywords are already prepared.
Hmm.
So do you need to create again in HANA?
So what I understand from your question, let's say you're having BW system where the queries are already created with CKF, RKF, variables, the queries are already ready. Yeah. Now you went
Yes, sir.
with the migration. Now you migrated this BW system from a non-HANA database to HANA database.
Correct, sir.
Now we have the BW running on HANA, and the existing queries have got their CKF, RKF, variables, everything is available. Now what do I do with this? That's what your question is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now once you migrate to HANA, first of all, you migrated to HANA for what? Are there any specific performance issues of certain queries?
Yes, sir. Performance issues of loading.
Data loading or query reporting?
Everything, sir. Both.
So when it's a both, what you do, they'll identify a case. Let's say there are 100 queries, boss, okay? They'll say that this
Okay.
is one of this query is really critical and we want to improve, even after migrating it to HANA, it has not really improved, okay?
Okay.
How do I improve the performance of this query with leveraging HANA engines, yeah?
Yeah.
If after migrating it to HANA, if it is improved, then fine, I will not touch that query. Even after even after migrating it to HANA, I still facing performance issue on that query, which is a problematic area. Then I'll focus on what to be done. In those cases, I can think of something called query snapshot. When I say query snapshot, the output of the query will build indexes on the query, and the query will be converted as an analytical view.
Okay.
When I do that, I don't have to rebuild the CKF, RKF. All the calculations, what is already done in the BigQuery will come into my view automatically.
Okay, sir.
And then we can use this query snapshot view for reporting again.
Okay, got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, boss, we'll stop it here, and then we'll continue tomorrow more detailed on variables and parameters. Okay.
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
So there were some column views created apart from where we saw that example for analytical view. It was one catalog analytical view, column view, and there were other column views for each field, it seems. What was the use of
We'll not use it for reporting, but those are the sub nodes, you can say. You can say those are sub nodes, okay? And all those will contribute in that main view. Yeah?
okay.
If you go to this, see you have these ones you're asking, right? These are small ones, yeah, which actually contribute to the others. All this will be used in the definition of this. If you go inside, if you look at the definition of this, all the others, see, HANA EPM demo, those will be used inside this. That's what I mean to say.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I got it.
In the definitions, it will be used. Okay? Yeah. And one more thing, some will be used for value help. Yeah. Some will be used for hierarchies. Some will be used for showing this. You can see the content of these also. You can see hierarchy. Do we have hierarchies? Say I want to see odd right this. Yeah. You see those nodes? Relations between all those columns are maintained here. Yeah. Company names I want to see. These are like sub nodes which will be linking them. Yeah.
Okay.
And we cannot do reporting on this. These are not allowed. Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Previous class you explained some of the notepads, right? So those things are also we did not receive, sir. Can you forward that one?
The session type history,
Notepads.
right? History and session type history, those.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean,
Today you'll receive them. Don't worry. Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Sir, will we be getting this session as well?
Yeah.
Today's session?
This also I'll include. Yeah.
Oh. And sir, just wanted to ask you something.
Yeah.
This do we really need to go through BO and BW part? Is because this is getting difficult to understand. I mean, when we are just into HANA, that is okay.
If you don't
But when it comes to BW and BO, it becomes very difficult.
see, don't worry. See, at this point of time, if you want to get into BW or BO, you can never be an expert.
Yes, exactly.
You might
That's
learn.
what I'm asking.
You might learn, but you'll never be an expert. So there's no point in learning when you can't be an expert.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So,
If
so
it's
what I
just a
mean,
concern is
so
because
what I mean to say is, don't get into BW or BO. If there are some questions what they're raising on BO or something, don't worry on those. Just take the modeling part. In BO, I'll touch what is required. I'll touch on design studio, all those. That is enough. Don't worry on this.
okay.
Just believe
Okay,
me.
that was it which was bothering me. I was thinking
No,
if
no, no, no,
it's
no, no.
we are not
Don't get
getting.
bothered. And I'm telling you, before them, you will get the job first. Because they will they'll know many things. They'll get confused. They'll start comparing things and they'll end up nothing. And you're in plain mind, you'll pick up everything and you'll break the job for 100%. That is what happens. And even when you have more knowledge also, you try to get confused yourself. That is what they do now. And since you're mainly focusing on HANA, you'll just pick what is required. And that's where your benefit. Okay?
All the best, Ritu.
Thank you.
Okay then.
Hey, you people are keep confusing us with the BW and BO. We keep struggling there. What is going on?
No, don't get anything. See, they're asking questions. And
That's okay, sir.
Don't worry about those. Okay.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah, please.
Hello.
Yeah, Chapapa.
Sir, we have schemas like SysBig schema and SysRepo schema. Like that, how many system-defined schemas we need to have awareness?
It's not that it's as and when you keep installing some support packs, you start getting many. You say sys. I've got sys, REPL, BI, big EPM, repo, security statistics, all this. And there might be something like APM, PLM. There will be a lot of things coming in depending on what support packs or what additional components you're installing. Okay. But only thing is anything which contains the word sys, it is relevant to system schema.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.